Well, welcome everybody. It's time. It's time to talk about WWE Backlash. Give me my predictions and thoughts. Also, we'll be talking about the news of Paige leaving WWE and that whole situation. Hoping to have a guest here. Also, I might have a special episode. I know I've been talking for a couple of weeks to have Mikey, Punchy Mikey YouTube channel, have him on the show. It didn't work out to have him on the podcast this week, but we might have a special episode tomorrow or a special interview with him tomorrow, talking really anything. Talking about his channel, what he does, likes to do, if he has an NFL team he likes, WWE, just really anything and all in between. If not, I'll try to have him on for next week for the review show of WWE Backlash for the show Steve's Wrestling Ramble, and we'll talk about all the results, if anything big happened as well. The way it seems and the way it's set up, it may not be the big case, but we got to get started. Let's get rolling. If you want to join in the conversation, welcome to join the chat. I do actually have the chat feature enabled, and you're welcome to leave a comment in the chat if you're watching here live. If not, leave a comment section in the comment section below this video. Share, like, subscribe, all that other stuff as well. So let's rip it up and let's go. Alright, welcome to the show. Steve Wrestling Ramble. I'm also part of Talking WWJ, along with Stephen A. and the host Jay. But today, I'll be going over my predictions specifically for WWE Backlash. If my guest is unable to arrive, then it'll just be me. It'll be a very short episode, but we'll see. Alright, but let's get straight into it here. WWE Backlash. Like I said, I'll just go through these matches one by one. I have 6 matches for right now. I don't know if any other matches will be announced. I don't think so. So as I have it right now, 6 matches. Usually with the go home show, they would have assumed to announce another one, but that is what I have right now. And speaking of right now, let's welcome my guest co-host for the day, or just guest for the moment, Matt of Matt's Madness. Good afternoon, sir. How you doing?
Good. Are you able to hear me? This is the first time I'm using this thing.
Matt?
Can you hear me? You able to?
I apologize for the technical difficulty, everybody. I don't know if there are people, if there is anybody watching live. I can't hear him. I'll check the control room, but beyond that, let's see here. All right, try it one more time. Hello, Matt.
Can you hear me?
Oh, still nothing. I have his volume all the way up. Matt, are you silent over there? Are you on mute? Because you're not on mute here.
Can you see me?
Well, this sucks. I try to, you try to do things. It's not his fault. I'm not saying it's probably mine. It's just try to do things, and you have someone of his rapport and others you try to have on the show, and then when they do come on, it doesn't work for them. It's very frustrating, especially for me that's trying to become something. But anyways, we'll see if he's able to jump back on. The link worked, he's just not able to get his sound. If you guys were able to hear him, because I see a couple of people were here, let me know, because I don't have the live feed on my other device. So, all right, let's try it again. Hello, Matt. Are you there?
Can you hear me this time? I'm not on.
All right, I don't know what's going on. I don't think it's on his end. It's probably on mine. I checked the control panel. He is not muted. His volume is all the way up, and everything. I'm sure the same is on his end. He's all the way up, not muted, but it's just not. It's not simpatico. It's not working that way. And I apologize to Matt for that. I just don't know what's going on. It works for ME. ME sometimes is on here on a phone. John is on Google Hangouts on a phone when I do my Talking Packers with Steve show. So I don't know why
You can't hear me?
it's not letting Matt.
All right.
See here. Okay, so I muted him, so let's unmute him. No, come on. All right. I think he's just going to have to leave and then come back. I don't want to eject him because if I eject him, he can't come back at all. So maybe we'll be able to get this to work. If not, I'll just do the predictions by myself. I'm used to doing that, one-man band here. So we're gonna try it again. If it doesn't work the other time, then it might not work. And if it doesn't work, then I might actually move this episode to another date. Tomorrow, tonight, whether he's able to join or not. But because I know Raunchy Mikey messaged me and seen if he wants to be able to be part of it too. So if Matt tries again, we'll try it again. If not, I'm sure he'll let me know in the chat. This episode already not going the way I wanted to. Again, I apologize for those watching archives as well. I just don't get it. I mean, you can hear me, right? My sound's on. Oh, Matt, if you, I don't know if you can hear me, if you are within the sound of my voice, but when you log back in, Matt, or when you come back to the Hangout, check your headphone. I don't know if your headphone has a volume on it. So if your headphone could be on a low volume, if it's not, then it's not. But all right, let's try it again. Okay, Matt, you just muted yourself. I think I finally found it. I think I finally found what was the problem. I think I can actually get him on now if he wants to try it a fourth time. This is very embarrassing for me because he's the one that has the precious time and wanting to have me have him on here. I do also welcome to check him out on not on YouTube, but on Blog Talk Radio, Matt's Madness. Just search there in the bar, Matt's Madness, mattsmadness.com.
Can you hear me?
Yay! I can hear you loud and
All
clear.
right, I'm gonna plug the headphones in. Hold on.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Perfect.
All right, I apologize for that. All right, so let's get into it. WWE Backlash first brand exclusive pay-per-view. This one for SmackDown Live, 6 matches. I guess get your opinion straight off. What are your expectations for Backlash, and what is your number one match that you're looking forward to? I guess.
I expect Backlash to actually exceed most people's expectations. There's only 6 matches on the card, but to be honest with you, I think that lends itself to be a positive because you have a chance now to have all of these individuals really extend and be able to tell their story in a longer match. That's really what I'm looking forward to, rather than having a lot of matches or at least a couple matches that are rushed, which I hope they don't rush any of these. There's more than enough time with only 6 matches on the card. And, as far as what I'm looking forward to the most, I mean, it's got to be, I would say, the main event. And AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose, probably a close second would be the tag team title match, which I believe we all feel is going to be the Usos versus Heath Slater and Rhino. So, obviously there's some quality matches on the card. I don't think anyone's overly excited about the entire card, just doing cartwheels over the lineup. But I think that it's a very solid show that could lend itself to have a couple surprises. And if this is the first SmackDown only brand exclusive pay-per-view, you're going to have a few surprises to get people on board with this whole brand split.
Well, that's okay. That's an interesting way to go with it because I was then I'm going to just ask you, where do you think the surprises could be? Because really, if AJ Styles beats Dean Ambrose, that's not really a surprise. I mean, that's a good thing. Most people want that to happen, cheering for Styles, thinking this is his moment. But is that really a sort of a surprise? Women's six-pack
Mhm.
challenge, you're crowning an inaugural champion. I guess a surprise would be Carmella or Alexa Bliss winning it. Tag team titles, the only surprise is the Hype Bros winning the tag titles. Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, it'd be a miracle if Wyatt wins. Maybe that'll be a surprise. And Dolph Ziggler beating the Miz. I guess those two, I think the Randy Orton, Bray, Miz, Dolph Ziggler match are the only ones that could find surprises. So where do you see that could have those surprises that you're saying SmackDown Live needs for this pay-per-view to be a success?
Well, I don't think it'll be anything earth-shattering. I mean, I don't think we're going to see Goldberg debut and return at this pay-per-view. I don't think anything of that level, but
Mm-hmm.
we could have some mid-level surprises. And the one that I kind of came up with that's possible is during the Randy Orton Bray Wyatt match. I'm predicting that Bray goes over, and the way he goes over is because of Luke Harper returning and possibly rejoining Bray Wyatt, and Randy Orton is going to eventually, I mean, he'll eventually probably win this feud, as most of the Bray Wyatt feuds end in a loss for him. So I'm going to say Luke Harper returns and costs Randy Orton the win.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I know I've been looking forward to, or I've enjoyed him or when with the Wyatt family, and then when he went on singles run and everything. So hopefully, if he does come back this way, whether he's back with Bray and have their original Wyatt family, at least with those two, and then maybe at some point break off officially from the Wyatt family altogether, have Bray truly go on his own, and have Luke another singles career all by himself without the family behind him. But that certainly would be interesting. I know I would enjoy it again as a Luke Harper fan. I've been really waiting for his return, whatever that will be, because I didn't know specifically when his timetable was to be to come back. But if it does happen here on Sunday, not going to have any issues with it, of course. The first match to predict: Usos, Hype Bros. Kind of already talked about it, but still predicting it. Me officially, I'm going to predict the Usos over the Hype Bros. As much as I am a fan of Zack Ryder, and I really am, I just don't see them beating the Usos, especially the Usos and their heel turn that happened on Tuesday on SmackDown Live. So I'm going to go with the Usos over the Hype Bros, and I'd assume you'll go the same way.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way that WWE can do this, and I know they like to just once in a while just create an outcome that is unexpected just to be unexpected. This is not one of those times to do that. This is not a Zack Ryder WrestleMania Intercontinental Championship ladder match moment. This has to be the Usos going over. There's no other way to do it. The Usos have to win this because of the turn that they made. They need some steam. They need some heat, and this is the perfect time to do it.
All right, then the next matchup, the match of the night for me that I'm most looking forward to, the SmackDown Women's Championship match, six-pack challenge for the inaugural WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. We have Natalya, Naomi, Becky Lynch, Nikki Bella, Carmella, and Alexa Bliss. Who do you have and why to win the SmackDown Women's Championship?
I mentioned this yesterday, and this is a really hard pick because I don't feel strongly about any of these women, and that's not to I'm not on any of these women. They're all, I think, great athletes, and you can make a case for Nikki, you can make a case for Becky, and you can make a case for Carmella. But I think what's going to happen is that my pick is Becky Lynch, and the only reason I say that is because I wouldn't put all of the women on SmackDown in one storyline. I would separate it out for having a title picture and having personal feuds. And you could put Nikki into a personal feud with Carmella, which is where they're going. And you could have Becky face, the flavor of the month, whoever that may be, Natty or Alexa Bliss, whatever heel of the week that they want to put her against. So, I mean, I know there's only 6 women really on SmackDown. So, I mean, you could separate them, or they may just take the route and go Nikki, and you already have a feud kind of built in with Carmella. So there's really a case, and I don't feel strongly about Becky Lynch winning this one, but if you're going to put a gun in my head, I'd say Becky Lynch.
And I think for my prediction, I'm going to go with Nikki Bella. I think it's going to be a veteran to be the first champion, the inaugural champion, have someone to try to build already for the new championship for SmackDown Live. So I think either Natalya or Nikki Bella, and then out of those two, we go with Nikki Bella more so than Natalya, even though she has been one here on my own show here since Steve's Wrestling Ramble. Been saying for weeks that she should be one. But that was saying because I didn't think Nikki Bella would be able to make it back so fast, that she wouldn't be cleared, wouldn't be able to be in this type of match whenever they were, when they were going to crown the champion here at Backlash after the Brand extension. So that's why I was going with Natalia for as long as I was, hitching to that wagon. But now, kind of jumping off of it, going to the Nikki Bella train, and going with Nikki Bella, and that being my prediction, Nikki Bella to win. And then on top of that, liking that WWE already setting up a title feud with her and Carmella already. Carmella being the first challenger and already having the back and forth. Plus Carmella getting over on Nikki on Tuesday on SmackDown Live as well, kind of being part of my reasoning for predicting Nikki Bella. But Nikki Bella, Nikki Bella, Nikki Bella. I think Nikki Bella will be the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Next up, we'll just go straight into it. The finals for the tag team titles: Heath Slater and Rhino versus our pick, the Usos. I would want it to be Heath Slater and Rhino, just for the mere fact of Heath Slater getting that contract. But I've enjoyed him so much and his free agent stick and the gimmick that I kind of would want it to continue. And again, as I already mentioned, talk about the Usos heel turn, get extra heat on them, have them beat Heath Slater and Rhino. And then when American Alpha does come back, you already have that feud set up, as much as I was talking about WWE doing it right with the women, having a set up feud with Nikki Bella and Carmella. Usos and American Alpha already being set up before the Usos winning the title. So my prediction will be the Usos defeating Heath Slater and Rhino becoming the new tag team champions, and then Heath Slater for at least one more month. Maybe if you want to stretch it to Survivor Series, and then that's it. And then having an end game, which also I'll predict right now, Heath Slater going to be coming to SmackDown Live. Who do you have winning the titles, and how do you see the end of the Heath Slater saga ending to you?
Yeah, so this one seems a little more cut and dry, a little bit easier to predict than I think than the women's match. And you have to have the Usos win here. Obviously, they're going to beat the Hype Bros, as we just said. And I think now that American Alpha is out of the tournament, you kind of have to have the Usos win, because if you have Heath Slater and Rhino win, well, then it's kind of like, well, you'd have American Alpha chasing them or something like that. And to have the Usos have the belts and have American Alpha come back, or whenever Gable is able to come back, have them return, and upon their return chase the Usos. I think that it would be a very good move on WWE's part to go that route. And you could have Heath Slater. I mean, there's ways to write him in for, as you said, another month. There's ways to kind of creatively put him in to the story, as we're all supposed to believe. He's not a member of the SmackDown roster, yet he continues to be on SmackDown week after week. So suspending that part of my disbelief is a bit difficult at times. But I think that, yes, Usos win here. I think that the Usos need to also change their music. I think they need to change their music. I think they need to change their look. Obviously, their entrance has to go out the window, which I'm not sad about after seeing the same thing for 6 years. I think that they need to completely change just how they look and feel, their attire, just go all out with the flip here. I think it's a great way. And they blamed it on the fans who turned on them and all that. So they could have a great run as a heel team. And it really, I think, is a shot in the arm, a shot of adrenaline for the Usos if they take the belts here. And I think they will.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It was kind of ironic, especially when we're talking about the fans and the booing them all this time being the faces. They finally turned heel this past week, and then now they're starting to get cheers. So that's kind of ironic how that finally happens. It happens now that they're being heel, maybe because most of the Universe are waiting and wanting them to be that. Because to us, we believe that if the Usos are heels, they can actually be not only badass heels, but better um, all around in general. Next match to predict: Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt. I'm going to go with Randy Orton, just for the mere fact that he's going to be facing Brock Lesnar in a house show, live event, days before, or either the night before or days before WWE Clash of Champions, which is Monday Night Raw's brand exclusive pay-per-view coming up here late in the month. But I'm going to go with Randy Orton over Bray Wyatt. I just don't see Bray Wyatt getting a win. His promo on Tuesday and his promos in general have been getting old to me, especially this past week. Talk about him being the apex predator and everything, and him hunting Randy and all this other stuff. It just reminded me of The Undertaker and their feud leading into WrestleMania that year. Him saying he's the new face of fear, and then he loses. So, then again, that's The Undertaker, but I'm just saying, in that kind of way of thinking, it's just like, he's going to lose anyways. And we're supposed to keep believing him in his things. I mean, to me, it'll get to a point in his career, whether it's this here at Backlash or whatever, where WWE Creative and Vince McMahon and the higher ups above will have to make a decision. Which way will they go with Bray Wyatt? Will they actually show the WWE Universe and everyone himself that they actually might believe in him, might actually want him near the top of the card, or will they stick him down here with Dolph Ziggler realm and every being a mid carder, someone where there maybe tease at points that he could get back up to the top, but really not getting back up to the top, if you know what I mean. So I think one of these times, one of these feuds, one of these moments, we're gonna get to that tip of end, gets to that cross fork in the road, however you want to say it, for his career. And to me, I think the way it's probably going to go, if I had to assume things, is that he's probably going to be staying there in the mid card. He's a good character, but with the track record and everything, it just doesn't seem like WWE's going to want to put the faith, or going to be putting the faith in him to be there in the upper mid card or in the main event spots, at least to me, anytime soon. So for me, I got Randy Orton. Who do you got? Why Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt?
Your picks are scaring me because you're presenting logic to me that I didn't think about, and you may clean sweep me on Sunday, and I think I'm going to stick with my guns though. I'm sticking with Bray Wyatt. What scares me though is, like you said though, Randy's going to be facing Brock, in a few weeks, obviously, and billed as their rematch, although not really. It's more of just a glorified house show, and so I think you're right that Randy, after the beating he took against Brock Lesnar, does need to rebound himself just a little bit. He needs a little bit of momentum upon his return. He hasn't won a match, the pay-per-view match, obviously. I mean, he's had a SmackDown match. Actually, he lost that match against Heath Slater. So anyway, yeah, Randy hasn't had a win yet, but I think Randy's at the point in his career. Does he really need a win to have any momentum? I mean, what really gives him momentum is 3 letters, and that's RKO. And I think if Randy wins here, I'm going to predict this. If Randy does, and I'm still sticking with Bray, but if Randy wins, I still think you're going to have Bray get the last laugh, whether it's being a sore loser or whether it's Luke Harper returning at the end of the match and just have Bray and Luke just completely destroy Randy. One way or the other, even if Randy wins, I think Orton is going to be left laying in the middle of the ring. Just because anytime, and logic tells you this, and that's scary. It's a scary word to use in WWE's logic. But I think if you look back at the history of any of these beginning of matches, if the heel wins the first match, typically you're going to have the heel lose the blow off of the whole thing, and the good guy's supposed to win at the end of the day, right? So. I'm still sticking with Bray, but your pick scares me about the whole Brock Lesnar thing, the way SummerSlam ended. Randy needs a little momentum. But I'm sticking with Bray Wyatt. But at the end of the day, Randy, one way or the other, win, lose, or draw, is going to be left laying to continue.
That makes sense to me. I mean, I like your logic as well. And you're thinking for Bray Wyatt. I mean, anything can happen. That's why, as I was saying there in the beginning, when you were talking about needing whether mid-level, mid-card, or whatever shocking moment here for Backlash to happen for it to constitute for some of the WWE Universe as a success. I didn't think Bray Wyatt winning would be one of those. I thought, if anything, it's going to be here in this next match that we're going to predict. The Intercontinental Championship match, The Miz, the champion, of course, versus challenger Dolph Ziggler, Battle of the Ohio Boys, and friends outside of the ring, of course. They're actually going to be going to at least I believe they both will be going to the Cleveland Browns either week 1 or their home opener. I think is the home opener when they're back in Cleveland. They'll both be attending together. So, but either way, Intercontinental Championship match, Miz versus Dolph Ziggler. This is where I think the biggest surprise or swerve could actually happen out of all these matches, out of these 6. For me, I'm going to go with the Miz to retain. I don't see Dolph winning this just as much as I didn't see Dolph beating my guy Dean Ambrose last SummerSlam for the WWE World Title. What makes me think he's going to win it for the mid-card IC title. Not saying the IC title is nothing. It has a great lineage and is awesome in itself. But I'm just meaning for Dolph Ziggler. In his position in the WWE, I don't see him winning here. Just plain out simply. So I'm going to go with the Miz successfully retaining the IC strap and continuing on from there, because you got to keep that momentum going. Sometimes we talk about momentum being king for people in their predictions or people in their logics, which is sometimes right. And in this case, the Miz and his momentum after that promo on Talking Smack, which I advise Matt and others that haven't or just didn't know the show, check it out on the WWE Network. It is only $9.99, so check that out. Check that out when you can. It's on right after WWE SmackDown Live on Tuesday evenings on the WWE Network. So who do you have and why to win in this match, Miz versus Ziggler?
I got The Miz, and I think momentum is behind him right now. The Miz has really reinvented himself over the last couple of months. And obviously, I think, it kind of came to a head at that Talking Smack segment with Daniel Bryan that, if you notice, they kind of cooled off. And because, I mean, what are you going to do with Daniel Bryan? He's not going to be wrestling again, 99% chance of that anyway. So if they're not going to have a match, you have to just kind of brush it under the rug, right? So but nonetheless, I think that was everybody kind of unanimously agrees that was the Miz's best promo to date. I think that totally agree. I'm tired of the A-lister stuff, and having his wife come back really added more depth to his character rather than just talking about being the A-lister and he's a Hollywood star and all that, which kind of got a little bit stale. And having his wife there, I think, again, it added depth to his character. She's able to help him win matches, help him retrieve belts from the ring, which I loved on SmackDown. Having his wife have to go do the dirty work to come in the ring and grab the belt from Ziggler that was laying on the mat. And I was just thinking back, and I said this yesterday in my show, I mean, just take yourself back to the Attitude Era when man-on-woman violence was not only accepted but sometimes embraced. I mean, that wouldn't have worked, 8, 9, 10 years ago when before the PG era. I mean, that would have been a different result. But obviously, we're in a different environment now. But I loved it. I loved having him use his wife to do the dirty work. Hiding behind her is great, and I think the Miz retains here because he has too much momentum. Dolph Ziggler's again kind of in no man's land, and he kept kind of alluding to on his commentary that if he loses, he's going to have to go back to the drawing board and he's going to have to rethink some things. And I think that is really a hint of a change of character. So if Ziggler loses here, the surprise in this match could be maybe Ziggler turning heel, even though it's the Miz he's facing, just being a sore loser, or maybe just him sitting in the ring, just kind of sulking. Some kind of character change is going to take place if Ziggler loses this match. And I think he will. I think the Miz retains. I'm with you.
Yeah, maybe that could. I think that we talked about the Usos needing to turn heel and that by helping their character, helping them in the long run, and now they finally happened. It happened last week on SmackDown Live. I know there's been some that want Ziggler to turn heel, think that would help him out. Maybe then he'll actually get a push or something, actually deserve to be in a title match against Dean Ambrose. Or maybe AJ Styles. We'll see where we go in that match, being the final match to predict. But, whether that happens here, Backlash, or anytime soon, I don't know. I think it might be a little bit too late to me to really help out for Ziggler in his career. I know I also hear the rumors of Kevin Nash wanting to come back, being with Ziggler, being his enforcer, being Diesel, being like his old character Diesel there when he was Shawn Michaels in the past, in the Attitude Era, or pre-Attitude Era actually, at that time. But no, it definitely you go there with the Miz. But let's head to the main event. WWE World Champion Dean Ambrose basically against challenger AJ Styles. For me, and as I play the theme of Dean Ambrose each and every week for all my videos since Battleground, as I made the prediction in that prediction episode of if Dean Ambrose successfully or if he retained his title in the Shield triple threat, that I would use his music all the way up until the booking decision is made of him dropping the title for any of my videos. This one, my NFL podcast, if I'm talking Girl Meets World or whatever, is going to be used here in a Google Hangout. So I want that to keep going, and I also think I want Dean Ambrose's title reign itself to keep going just a little bit longer, maybe stretch it out to Survivor Series. Would love it to stretch it all the way to WrestleMania, but I have a feeling AJ Styles is going to be taking that title sooner than WrestleMania, of course. Maybe the next month, maybe Survivor Series. But here, I just think it's just a little bit early, a little bit too early for AJ Styles' moment in time. So I'm going to go and predict Dean Ambrose to retain his title and for him to stand tall, ending the show, and going from there, because I just don't see AJ winning it quite yet. Yeah, he has his own momentum, but we also have to keep on going with Dean Ambrose being the champion and everything, especially after what happened with the Austin podcast, at least for most not liking it to me. I understood Ambrose's side of it. I actually was a little bit more upset with Stone Cold in that regard. But specifically here, I'm going with Dean Ambrose to retain. Who do you got and why for the main event?
I like this. I mean, so far we only agree on 50% of the matches here, so that leaves a lot of room for movement and who's going to win this prediction. So I'm going with AJ Styles. And we've never really discussed that Austin podcast. That, I think most people agree, was a very awkward podcast. I think for the first like 30, 40 minutes, it was weird. It was uncomfortable because I kind of blame Austin for some things. Dean at sometimes was just kind of one word answers and kind of almost seemed out of it at times. And it was just a very weird feeling. I've never seen that in a Stone Cold podcast. So, if you were to just put that on mute and watch the body language, it's just odd to watch. That was, while it was revealing and I enjoyed that podcast, you could tell Austin was actually getting legitimately frustrated with Dean, and Dean at the same time was kind of giving it back to Stone Cold. And there was some real friction there. It wasn't a work at all because I think Austin was getting frustrated by the answers Dean was giving him, and Dean was uncomfortable probably talking about certain things, and Austin kept digging and prying for more of an answer, and Dean would just kind of pull back or just kind of give almost like a lazy man's answer. But I mean, hey, that's Dean Ambrose. I don't place the blame really on one or the other too much. It's just I think their dynamic and their chemistry just didn't mix for the first 75% of the podcast. Nonetheless, let's get to the match. I think AJ Styles wins. Would I be surprised if Dean does? No, I'm not saying this is a lock. AJ Styles is going to win the championship. He has to at some point within the next couple of months. I might be jumping the gun that he's winning here, but I'm sticking by my guns. I say he wins just because he came off of the biggest win of his career at SummerSlam, and having him, if he loses clean to Dean Ambrose, man, I think it would take the steam out of what happened at SummerSlam. I expect AJ to have a great run, and I also expect once John Cena comes back that AJ is going to have the belt. And I think that they may have one more match. You still have that trophy that AJ Styles keeps wearing, whether it's on his head, whether it's on his arm. He keeps wearing that John Cena headband, armband, whatever. And so to me, and link their previous match at SummerSlam to their next one when John Cena comes back. And I think when John Cena comes back, AJ has the belt, and I think AJ gets the belt at Backlash on Sunday.
I'm just looking here in the chat room. Big Q of Team Boy TV Live. Welcome to follow him on Twitter at Team Boy TV. He was just letting us know that he thinks that they will do it as in AJ Styles winning the title. They will do it for the same reasons they did it for Kevin Owens and when he won the Universal Championship on Monday Night Raw. What are your quick thoughts to that comment? Do you think they're just going to put the title on him for the same reason that they're putting on Owens, trying to have this new face to run the place, so to speak?
Well, I don't think right now AJ doesn't have any allies, right? He doesn't. I don't see anybody on SmackDown that's his ally. The club, Gallows and Anderson are on Raw. So right now he doesn't appear to have any allies. You could just, I guess, cherry pick a heel out of SmackDown just because they're a heel. All heels are supposed to be on the same side. But I've seen no hints of anybody coming on to really aid AJ in doing this. So either one of two things is going to happen if they take that route of kind of making AJ the SmackDown champion just as they did with Owens on Raw with the Universal Championship. Either AJ wins clean, which if he does, it's totally believable for me. He just beat the top guy in the industry clean on SummerSlam. So if he's either going to win clean, or this is a crazy prediction, or a crazy kind of a dark horse prediction that I wouldn't put too much stock into, but maybe Triple H comes out and says, hey, and he does the same thing and pedigrees Dean Ambrose and puts AJ Styles on Dean Ambrose, and you have Triple H kind of manipulating both brands and kind of dictating who's champion. Maybe they do that. I doubt it, but maybe they do. But either way, I still say AJ comes out on top.
See, there you go. I like that one. You were talking about, and in the start of the show, and I'm bringing it up here for a third time, you're talking about that shock moment. That would be a shock moment. And I kind of brought it up on Talking WWE with Jay of the thinking of maybe this whole Triple H thing getting involved, pedigreeing Roman Reigns, technically that having to do with WrestleMania. Reigns beat him. So, you have to put a bow, cross your T's, dot your I's in that feud. So he pedigreed him. Then he pedigreed Seth Rollins to turn on him. Now pedigreeing Dean Ambrose. You know what that could mean. Shield
Shield
return
reunion. You
is
damn
coming
right.
back.
Yeah.
So if that does happen, I'm gonna like it for that reason because I was a big fan of the Shield, big mark for the Shield. Um, but I brought it up there actually after the Raw or the Talking WG episode after that Monday Night Raw on a Thursday, and just bringing it up that maybe that's where it could go. Now I didn't predict or say that it would happen on Sunday, so I can't take credit for that. That is all for Matt. But I was thinking that maybe at some point it would happen to get to that point and have a Shield reunion, and then you have the Shield not together because they're on different brands, in that way, together because they can't be together every week. But you have Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins on Raw trying to get after Kevin Owens and him. And you have Dean Ambrose trying to get Chase back and get his title from AJ Styles, if in fact it does happen the way that you're saying. And not just in the way of AJ winning, but winning with Triple H's help. And then when we get to Survivor Series, when everybody's together, then we can have one of our Survivor Series matches with them included, and maybe one of them being the captains and them being on the same team, and yada yada. Yes, that would also take away from title matches during that show, but it is Survivor Series. That's just how it's done. Get over it. So I think that'd be a good way to go. So now I know you do have a little bit more time left, but I want to get your thoughts on the breaking news from yesterday afternoon having to do with Paige and World Wrestling Entertainment. First, the news broke a week ago that she was getting lawyers involved and everything. We didn't know specifically the reasoning for that, and yesterday we kind of found out what that was. She decided to quit and leave WWE. She does have a contract all the way going into 2019. So she's trying to get the lawyers involved so she can get out and be able to go on her own, be with her man Del Rio wherever he goes. Del Rio did an interview in Mexico, talking about how he parted ways in a good way with WWE. He's in good terms with WWE, but just amicably separating there. But I want to get your thoughts on that whole situation over the Del Rio and even more specifically, Paige.
I mean, it's sad. I think both talents, Del Rio and Paige. I was a fan of both talents. I think Del Rio was very intense. I loved his in-ring style. He could have been a great babyface. I think turning him heel and his whole, really the pit of his career might have been the League of Nations that nobody wanted to see, including the talent that were in it. I mean, they've been very vocal. I mean, it was just awful. And he returned with a bang, beating John Cena with the U.S. title, and then both Paige and Del Rio both simultaneously failed the drug policy, the wellness policy, whatever. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall at that point where Del Rio was on his way out, and then Paige quickly followed suit. And I don't know if we'll ever. Maybe Paige will do a tell-all podcast, like CM Punk did with Colt Cabana a number of years ago. I'm sure it'll come out at some point, her exact reasoning. I'm sure, as Jim Ross always says, it's one of the two C's, cash or creative, and or both. So it has to be one of those two. I'm sure she was not happy with her position in WWE, the politics. It's going to be probably the same old, really the same theme, where however you want to spin it. Most talents, it's either cash or creative. And, having her boyfriend also leave, I'm sure that was an incentive for her to get out of there. Maybe they want to start a life or whatever. I don't know. But I'm sure there was more than just one reason. And it's a shame because I think Paige could have really added a lot to the women's division, both on Raw or SmackDown. And it's a shame. It really is.
I'm sorry. I was just looking here again at the chat. LPH is good. You can follow him on Twitter at LPH is good. He was letting us know in the comment section or in the chat here, which is great to let everybody know I finally am able to have the chat enabled for my live episodes. I never had it for the past year, but now I do. Anyways, he was saying he feels that the WWE screwed over Del Rio since his return. Um, I don't know about since his return, because when he returned, he beat John Cena, won the title, and I thought they were going to go somewhere. I think where it started to go downhill in WWE, not giving him the respect I thought he deserved personally, I think happened with the League of Nations, and then after that, spiraling down, or maybe even before that with Mexican stuff. But right away, he actually won the title. So I was thinking at that time that maybe something could go there. But Matt, what are your thoughts on that comment there? Do you think it was from the beginning of his return that WWE might have screwed him over, or just in the process of his return, while he came back?
Well, I mean, certainly, as you just said, I don't think off the bat they didn't try to bury him. I think they made an impact. The people went crazy. If you go back to when he beat John Cena last year for the U.S. title, I mean, people went nuts. I didn't expect it. I don't think anybody did. But
I don't
I
know.
think the beginning of the end was when he was paired with Zeb Coulter. That made zero sense. I thought that was a very poor decision. Of all of the things that Zeb Coulter said when he was on the opposite side with Jack Swagger and that whole feud a number of years ago, and talking about borders and if you love America or you leave it, all this garbage, and then all of a sudden he just does a 180 and aligns himself with Del Rio. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. They didn't have a great on-air chemistry, and then you have the Mex America garbage that lasted about a month, and that was even worse. And then obviously him being put into the League of Nations, it was, I mean, creative. I don't know really who to blame here. Creative didn't do a great job of coming up with things for him. So I understand his position, but I loved his in-ring style. No matter what silly storyline he was in with whoever he was aligned with, his in-ring style was great. He was a good promo to great at times. And I think he could have been a WWE champion and held the belt very well and been great as a babyface champion. I really do.
And I think they kind of how they screwed up with Wade Barrett's career. I'm thinking that he was supposed to be or I believe he should have been the champion back when he was with the Nexus, feuding with John Cena, and that time, and in those days, and how like Cody Rhodes as well, like all these talents that are leaving and had issues and departed with WWE now can be going in their independent scenes or wherever, maybe even TNA. You never know. As much as I give crap to TNA, if they're able to sign most of these talents that are being let go by WWE or WWE letting them go, then that actually would be a big coup for TNA if that was to happen. Maybe actually get them back on the map at all, trying to be any competition to World Wrestling Entertainment. But certainly that would have been better if they treated him better, treated all of these guys better. Cesaro now, we're hearing rumors that he might be leaving WWE, so it's just craziness what's going on there backstage, and what is the underbelly of the issues? Like really, what's the main problem backstage that some of these superstars, men or women, that might want to go? Because now I just read something online just a couple of minutes ago while you were talking, Matt, that was talking about Eva Marie and everything that and her being displeased and everything, and she might be going. Then again, that's just a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. But again, just another superstar added to the list that might be going, and then ones that have. What do you think maybe could be the underbelly issue within backstage that could be making these superstars that have left and the ones who are still and part of talent make them want to or think about leaving?
Well, I mean, they probably feel legitimately threatened by this new era. I mean, yes, it's an on-air story and all that, but I think it's a very real thing backstage too. I mean, you have these guys coming in from NXT. Everybody wants the new shiny toy from NXT, or maybe from New Japan or whatever. Maybe guys that haven't even come up yet are more desired than the guys that are there. I mean, you have Samoa Joe. People are dying for him on the main roster. Shinsuke Nakamura. People want him on the main roster. So everybody's looking for the next new thing, the next guy, the next shiny toy. And I think you have guys like Del Rio, you have guys like Cesaro, while they are workhorses and they can go in the ring, and people are behind Cesaro. I am fearful that Cesaro may actually feel threatened and may actually be threatened backstage by these new upcoming talents that are younger. They may have more charisma. Maybe they're getting more on-air time than Cesaro would have, because Cesaro has been the mainstay guy. Cesaro's kind of the veteran now. And yes, he can go inside the ring, but maybe creative feels that, hey, we've really tried almost everything we can think of. And Vince McMahon even said on the Stone Cold podcast about a year and a half ago, whenever Stone Cold had his first one on the network, that he's not sure why Cesaro isn't connecting. He actually said maybe because he's Swiss. I don't think it has anything to do with him being Swiss. Okay. I mean, we've
Mm-hmm.
had guys from Mexico. We've had guys from Ireland, obviously, men and women from Ireland. We've all these different talents from different countries and everything. And so it's nothing to do with him being Swiss. That's a silly answer. But I think ultimately, I think they're threatened. And the new talent is legitimately trying to make a name for themselves. And Cesaro's just kind of that utility guy that they can plug in occasionally to the main event, put in the IC title, the US title picture, and never really reach that top tier. but they know he's always going to put on a good match, and he's the go-to guy. But if I were him, I would be watching my back, and I would be really trying to push the envelope right now because competition is hotter than ever.
And I know there's even people like for Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, wanting them in WWE. So one's not even on the roster or even in NXT right now that people want over and already on the main roster in WWE. To overshadow Del Rio's, Cesaro's, even ones in the women's division that aren't even on the roster right now in NXT or otherwise. That might be threatening Paige and others. I mean, and Natalia. If there's anyone that has a right to be upset, has a right to maybe want to walk out, even though her personality shows that she never will, which is something I admire about her. That's why I respect her as a person. But, if anybody had a right to gripe, it would be Natalia, in my opinion, the most out of them, especially how she was portrayed on Total Divas, kind of having babysit the new women with when Eva Marie came and others, and kind of like a mother figure and everything, but not really so respected for the wrestler, the actual wrestler. Would have thought you care about someone's wrestling abilities, but her actual wrestling abilities and be able to be get a push or something. That's why I hope, maybe kind of somewhat hope that she could win and win the title on Sunday. As much as I'm a Carmella guy, I mean, if you want to check out Talking WJ here on YouTube. We had an episode yesterday. They had Carmella theme to start and end the show, and you actually hear my singing skills for her theme. I'm a fan of hers, and I see big things for her. But I do understand this notion of thinking that maybe they are being threatened, and that probably is a real thing because, as I just said too, they're superstars, men and women, not even on the NXT roster right now. That some of the W universe, quite frankly, wants to see their butts in WWE on the main roster, like yesterday. So that certainly is interesting. Any other news or notes or anything that you want to bring up, or because I don't know how much time you have left to stay here. I know time is money, so
No, I mean, I'm just ready for Backlash. I think I'm really expecting a good show. I know most people aren't, but I do expect it to exceed expectations, and it's probably the exciting pay-per-view on paper that we've seen in a while. But as you said, that six-pack challenge with the women, you just made a case for Natalia winning. She could absolutely win this. And Carmella, who I don't even know why they positioned her as a babyface upon her debut. I have no idea why they did, because when you look at her entrance, I mean, my God, it screams heel. You're talking about being the Long Island princess, and you're moonwalking, and you're saying you're fabulous. You can't be a babyface and call yourself all that kind of stuff. She just screamed heel, and I don't think that her being a babyface damaged her, because they quickly switched it and realized, hey, this isn't working, and now people are loving this or love to hate the Carmella character, which is what you want. So yeah, this women's title match, to be honest with you, the more we talk about it, the more I'm making a case for every single person, maybe outside of Alexa Bliss, that could win this, and that makes it exciting.
oh yeah, and I think that's why to me that's the number one match to see, because that one is the wild card, so to speak. Like, you can make a case for anybody. It's all unexpected. You never know who actually could put it on the strap. Even Naomi, someone could have a reasonable explanation for her to win the championship. I know another YouTuber actually did predict Naomi and gave a great explanation of why. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. But if you do have a few extra moments, I do actually just want to ask you a couple of random questions as a quick little interview, and I'll just ask them right in a row to let you speak. And those questions are: how long have you done your podcast? You can talk about what your podcast is all about. Your favorite NFL team? Do you like NFL? Do you do fantasy football stuff? And then question number 5: what is your favorite WWE pay-per-view / pay-per-view match of all time?
Ooh. Okay. All right. So, all right, my NFL team. I mean, I'm a Giants fan. I'm from New York, so I guess I'm kind of the boring fan from New York that's a Yankees Giants fan. So there you go with that. I do get into fantasy. I am into DraftKings. I'm into the season-long fantasy on ESPN. The draft and having people over and all that stuff. I think that's a blast. And so yeah, loving that. And so Yes, I love the NFL, and to be honest with you, I'm late to the party in the NFL deal in the NFL fantasy because I was never really into it until a few years ago, and ironically, that's when I started my podcast too. I started it about 3 years ago, and man, when you go back and listen to all of your early stuff, it's rough because
Oh
when you
yeah.
first, it's rough, man. You go back and you're just like, oh my, it's almost embarrassing. You're just like, really, that's what I did or said. And I didn't have a natural speaking voice. I was like
Mhm.
almost talking to somebody else, or it was weird. So I think it takes time, and it's kind of a skill that you build to learn how to talk into a
Oh,
microphone and be able, yeah. I mean, it takes a while, and you're always trying to improve and try not to be like every other show because there's thousands of podcasts out there now. So yeah, I started 3 years ago and continue to evolve and try to be different and stand out and build an audience. All the things that it takes a long time. It's not one of those deals where people think it's a get rich quick or you're going to make a ton
oh,
of money overnight. I mean, could you
exactly.
make a ton of money doing this? Absolutely. But it's going to take time, and people don't want to hear that. It's going to take hard work, and sometimes people, I don't want to do that. But that's why you have to look at it as a labor of love and just slowly, inch by inch, get there. And you're going to hit speed bumps just with anything else. So that's what I would tell anybody else. I talk to a lot of people that want to start their own show, and that's what I always say. And as far as my WWE pay-per-view match, man, if I was just going to pick one, I mean, the things that come to my head right away are Taker, Shawn, their first one at WrestleMania 25. That was one of the most amazing matches I've ever seen. I would say also Austin Rock at WrestleMania 17. Awesome. That was one of the best matches I've ever seen. I still watch that match because it was so
Mhm.
well done with the Austin heel turn that Austin has said to this day he wishes he didn't do. And I did expect, he said, and that's the one regret I'm sure everybody knows, but when Stone Cold ever asks about any regrets, he says that was the one where he wished he had shook Vince McMahon's hand and then just gave him a stunner. And I totally agree. But if he didn't turn heel, we wouldn't have the whole what chant, which I'm sure a lot of the talent actually wish didn't exist because it's amazing that what chant still exists. And that was what, how many 14 years ago, 2002,
Yeah.
that chant began. So that's amazing. But yeah, if I was going to say two up top of my head, Taker Shawn WrestleMania 25 and Austin Rock WrestleMania 17.
And do you have a favorite WWE pay-per-view? Just period. Like, what's your favorite pay-per-view to watch?
I mean, okay, I'll say outside of WrestleMania because
Right.
WrestleMania is too easy to go to. I would say Rumble. I'm a huge fan of the Royal Rumble just because of the unexpected. The you never know once that buzzer counts down to 5, 4. You never know who's going to come out through that curtain. So that's always exciting. So yeah, the Royal Rumble would definitely be my first pick outside of WrestleMania.
Okay, for me, outside of WrestleMania, I do like Royal Rumble, but for me, as of current structure of the WWE pay-per-view schedule, I'll go with WWE Money in the Bank
Mm.
as my favorite to watch. I always enjoy ladder matches. I'm the type of guy that always likes Battle Royals, Royal Rumbles, multi-man matches, Elimination Chamber matches, those type of matches where it is somewhat unpredictable. That's also why I'm looking forward to the women's six-pack elimination match for the women's title because those are the most unpredictable matches. You could make a case for any of them. So those type of matches in elimination style are always one of my favorites. So WWE Money in the Bank. But overall, like old pay-per-views, Unforgiven, WWE Unforgiven
Mm.
was a great pay-per-view for me to watch. It might not have always been A-plus quality cards each and every year, but just the pay-per-view itself, I surely enjoyed. Now we're going into Backlash. That'd be an old pay-per-view. I'm sorry to say this, people, but there will be no swing things, none of that stuff like they had in Backlash of old,
Mm.
part of their sets, because I know that would have been nice to see that back, but it is 2016. I don't think they'd do that. But either way, I do like. Speaking of sets, I do like how how the new sets are for Raw and SmackDown. I think that maybe they're just doing this like half year by half year, as in SummerSlam to WrestleMania. They're going to keep the set from SummerSlam for Raw and SmackDown. Then WrestleMania is going to have a special set. Then WrestleMania to SummerSlam, or to the SmackDown Live Go Home episode to SummerSlam. We'll have that set, like or something like that. I don't know. It just seems that way, but it is pretty awesome. I do like that because you stretch it out more. You see names or whatever it is. It just visually for me as a visual person, it visually looks awesome, and I do enjoy it for that reason. But that's really the only other questions I have for you. Any other news or notes or anything else that you wanted to bring up, sir?
As you were talking, I was thinking, and the other match that came to mind was the first match that really got me hooked into wrestling, and it's still to this day one of the best psychological stories ever told, in my opinion. And maybe I'm biased because that's the match that really got me hooked in wrestling and made me actually. I was like, "Hey, is this real?" And man, I wish I still really believed that it wasn't real. Or was real,
Right.
and that was
Mhm.
HBK Taker, the first Hell in a Cell, 1997 Bad
Oh,
Blood, and that's when Kane debuted. The story that was told between Michaels and the Undertaker in that program was one of the best I've ever seen. It made me like get goosebumps when Undertaker finally got Michaels in a cage. Obviously, with Kane debuting and ripping off the door when Kane was actually relevant and he was a monster. Man, that is the stuff that if you're not a fan, you just don't understand why that's such. It's I can't explain it. So HBK Taker 1997 Bad Blood has to be added to that list.
yeah, Kane. I think that debut by Kane for me is the best debut of anybody. Him and Jericho's debut in
Mm-hmm.
WWE being the best in my opinion. Now, just to ask, I guess to ask if it's okay for me to ask you this, do you have a favorite? Uh, well, first we said matches and pay-per-views, but favorite WWE superstar of all time?
This isn't going to be very interesting, but it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, I was a teenager during the Attitude Era, and boy, man, that's a perfect age to be during the Attitude Era because you're like, oh, this is risky TV, and you're a teenager, so you're kind of drawn to that stuff naturally anyway. You're kind of like, oh, this is awesome,
Yeah.
And it was very edgy TV, and there was blood, and there was obviously sexuality, and there was violence and great stories, and you had an all-star lineup in The Undertaker, Triple H, Kane, Austin, Rock, Big Show, Jericho. I mean, it was an all-star lineup that I don't think we'll ever see again. And so that to me was the best era, obviously. And I don't know. I was very heavily influenced during that era, and it was the perfect time to be a fan. And a lot of people dropped out once they became PG, but I stuck around and I'm here 20 years later.
Yeah, same here. For me, I started my podcast, Steve's Wrestling Ramble, and Talking Packers with Steve, both a podcast. Now I'm doing this 5 years, heading into my fifth NFL season and fifth year, talking WWE. I started on Blog Talk Radio. I had my shows on blogtalkradio.com. I also was part of a network for a short time, the Red Light Sports Network. Not only did I have my two podcasts, but I also did blogs. One about the Houston Texans NFL team, and one sometimes articles about WWE and pay-per-views reviews, giving blogs there for the Red Light Sports Network. Then I branched out on my own here, went to YouTube. I've only been on YouTube for 1 year, as people can tell in the playlist. That's why there's not so many episodes there, because I've only been on YouTube for a year. For me, my favorite match of all time would be Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle, WrestleMania 19. Um, my favorite WWE superstar of all time will be and forever The Undertaker. The Undertaker, just from his entrance, I was a little kid. I started watching wrestling when I was 6 years old, back in the great year of 1994, and watching WWE then and believing it was real and all that other stuff. That's why Kane's debut was so awesome too, because I was still young and I guess naive or whatever, thinking it was real and everything. It's how awesome that was, and even when Kane won the championship from Austin and everything, even though that was only for 24 hours, that moment though was pure joy for me as a Kane fan at that point in time. But I would say The Undertaker number one, The Rock number two, and Paul Triple H Levesque number three for my top three, and then now Dean Ambrose coming up there slowly, going up the ranks of my all-time favorites. But he's my number one for current WWE superstars. Um, but excuse me. I guess you can let people know where they can find you on Twitter and find your shows and anything else that you want to leave us with.
Yeah, you guys can follow me at Matt's Madness on Twitter. You can go to my website, mattsmadness.com. And Blog Talk Radio is where I do my SmackDown/Raw review show, kind of wrapping up the week in wrestling on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock. And that's all under Matt's Madness. And obviously, I'll be doing a post-game show immediately following Backlash this Sunday. So, whether that's 10:45, 11, 11:15, 11:30, whenever it ends, I'll be going live, taking everybody's calls. And yeah, so you can find me there, and feel free to follow me on Twitter.
I definitely follow him. That's at Matt_Madness.com. Or at Matts_Madness on Twitter. And MattsMadness.com. I kind of did that wrong. So I apologize.
That's
but anyways, right. You know what I mean. He already said it as well. But thanks to everybody that watched live. Thank you, LPH and Big Q of Team Boy TV Live, for stopping by in the chat and sharing your thoughts. As I do say to everybody now that I do have a chat enabled, I am man of the people. That's how I try to be different from other podcasts, interacting with not only having guests, but interacting with people that want to interact with me now, having a chat. Not only do I say what your message is, but I give you a plug if I already know what your Twitter handle is and your stuff already is. Like I said, Big Q, find him at Team Boy TV Live here on YouTube. Just search Team Boy TV Live. LPH is good. Search Google LPH is good. You find him on Twitter and everywhere else. He does have a YouTube channel where he also does reviews for WWE pay-per-view or Raw and SmackDown Live as well. I will be back here next week for Talking Packers with Steve as we go over everything in week 1, and then again Steve's Wrestling Ramble where we have the Backlash of WWE Backlash. So again, thanks to everybody. Thanks for Matt for stopping by. We got a rev. We got to go. Let's go. WWE Champion. Hey, this Sunday, Dean Ambrose successfully retains. This music is going to be the last thing you hear at WWE Backlash. WWE Champion. But I hope you guys all have a great weekend. And as always, take care.